Hello there, and welcome to my latest review for the series Daredevil Born Again. This recap covers episode 6, titled Excessive Force. This is going to be a spoiler heavy recap, so if you haven't taken the time to watch the episode, please do so now, then come back and listen to my review. Before diving into the review, I'm going to get some self promotion out of the way. I have a Patreon, link for that is in the description below, so if you'd like to show your support there, please do. There's a $5 tier for general support and a $15 tier for exclusives I'm only making available on Patreon. Some of my reviews will be posting to YouTube, such as when I start reviewing the upcoming season of Andor, while my review of Netflix's The Residents will be exclusive to Patreon. I'm also a self-published author. You can find links to my book series, The Atalante Chronicles, in the link tree below in the description. Check that out if you're looking for a fun urban fantasy series like The Dresden Files or Hellblazer. Thanks for your indulgence. Let's get on with the review. It's been 6 long episodes, but we finally reached the point where Matt Murdock decides to shit or get off the pot with regards to putting the suit back on. The emergence of Muse as a new threat and the perilous circumstances of young Angela Del Toro are the two latest incidents that pull him back into the vigilante life. Matt's struggle to control his violent impulses has been at the core of the first half of the season, as evidenced by the quiet scene at the beginning of this episode where we find Matt praying. One could argue Matt is seeking the strength to stay the course and not give in to becoming Daredevil again. I would argue Matt's seeking preemptive forgiveness from Foggy and God, knowing he's going to put that suit back on at some point. The introduction of Muse as an underground threat serves as a catalyst for both Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk. The fact that Muse created a massive mural of Fisk kissing a bull's ass while incorporating imagery of an American dollar was just chef's kiss. Yes, I'm aware Muse is a mass murderer. I can also admire the art department for the series who came up with the street murals attributed to Muse. Fisk has been slowly circling back to his previous mentality as a gangster, despite now holding the office of mayor. The revelation that a masked serial killer responsible for at least 60 deaths, who is openly mocking him, does little to bring Fisk away from his worst impulses. Rather than take the advice of Commissioner Gallo, Fisk wants to keep the existence of Muse under wraps for a little while longer, even going so far as to belittle Gallo for the NYPD's lack of investigation into these disappearances. We also get to see Fisk being inexorably drawn back into the underworld when Luca, the crime boss who has been making waves the past few episodes, actually waltzes into the mayor's office to confront Fisk. The balls it takes to stride into the center of political power in NYC and show Fisk an incredible amount of disrespect is kind of impressive in a completely stupid way. Luca is now entering the FA phase of FAFO, which is when Fisk calmly but succinctly tells Luca that the tribute has increased from 1.8 to 2.8 million, with the extra million going to Fisk himself for Luca's insulting behavior. I will admit that Fisk's cold exterior here is a marked difference from how he would have handled himself prior to his encounter with Echo. Perhaps it's because he's in his office rather than the street that he's willing to put up with Luca being so disrespectful. On the flip side, Angela Del Toro is the one who helps bring Matt around to her way of thinking. Angela's not some precocious kid, but a dedicated individual who took some of her uncle's lessons to heart about serving the community. She has zero faith in the system, which is a given considering what happened to her uncle. Instead, she turns to Matt to report on what her uncle was investigating, the disappearances of people along the queue line. Matt admonishes her and directs Angela to work with the system. This is happening around the same time that Fisk learns of the existence of Muse and decides to keep the news out of the public's eyes. Even when Muse murders two club girls and uses them for a new painting, Fisk doesn't move publicly against the psychopath. Instead, Fisk is hobnobbing with the wealthy elites of NYC, including a returning Jack Duquesne from Hawkeye. Vanessa's insight into the snobbish nature of these one percenters is as sharp as ever. Fisk tries the diplomatic approach, but he is rebuffed by nearly all of the attendees of this black tie event. And the Kingpin is not one to be talked down to. I'll get to the fight between Muse and Daredevil in a moment, but I want to talk about Adam and Wilson before that. Muse versus Daredevil and Wilson versus Adam play against each other as if they were complementary notes in a song's composition. It's been obvious for some time that Wilson has been beating up Adam in this dungeon. Now we get to see it in full, visceral color. In fact, Wilson brings an axe to let Adam have a fair shot at potentially injuring him. Fisk explains that he would take on stronger, larger men in his youth to prove himself, and he would sometimes need an equalizer. Make no mistake, though, this is about retribution, driven solely by the possessiveness Wilson feels toward his wife. He repeatedly screams out "mine" when pummeling Adam, leaving the man a bloody mess. While we are meant to root for Daredevil's fight with Muse, here there is no such joy in the violence. This is simply put an assault, both on Adam as a character and we as an audience. Wilson cannot let go of the fact that Adam put his hands on Vanessa in a passionate manner. It is a disturbing display of violence meant to showcase that for all of his talk about letting go of his past, Wilson Fisk is a hypocrite of the highest order. Now, all of this is preamble for the main reason this episode exists: Matt putting the suit back on. Angela decides to investigate the Q line herself. I admire her moxie, but she's a kid, and she really shouldn't be putting herself in that situation. Sure enough, Muse captures her and plans to use her blood in another piece of art. Soledad calls Matt, who confirms he hasn't seen Angela, and immediately Matt knows Angela has gone after Muse and she's in danger. And with two simple words, fuck it, Daredevil is back. We get a much better look at Muse's lair this go-around, as well as a bit more time with him. Muse is quite simply terrifying. He barely utters a word and hardly makes a sound. He is slow and methodical, taking great pleasure in every single aspect of his work. In many ways, he reminds me of some of the more sadistic serial killers we've had in real life, who were said to never raise their voice or show much in the way of emotion. The fight between Muse and Daredevil is well shot and choreographed. It's clear that Muse has some kind of martial arts background, so he's able to keep up with Matt for quite a bit longer than I anticipated. And much like the last major fight we saw Matt in while he was in costume, the soundtrack of his fight with Muse is the slowing heartbeat of an innocent, in this case Angela. The primal scream Matt unleashes during the fight shows me just how much Matt has missed being in this place, fighting an evil that needs to be fought. The ending of the fight sees Matt using the cable in his billy club to hang Muse while Angela's heartbeat slows to a crawl. It's here that we see the fundamental difference between Matt's fight and Wilson's fight. Matt lets Muse go to save Angela. For Matt, having lost his best friend in a similar circumstance, he cannot fathom letting Angela die just so he can satisfy his need for retribution against Muse. Angela is saved, allowing Muse to escape into the night, and that's a trade-off I think most of the audience would agree is worthwhile. The simple reassurance of Matt saying, "I'm here," to Angela's question, "Daredevil?" is priceless right before the end credits roll. I enjoyed Excessive Force quite a lot. The juxtaposition of Matt and Wilson's movement back to their true selves has been well done up to this point. The fight scenes in this episode reminded me a lot of the fights from the first season of Netflix's Daredevil series. There's only 3 episodes left after this, and I'm intrigued to see how the first half of Daredevil Born Again plays out. If you've enjoyed this recap and analysis of Daredevil Born Again Episode 6, hit that like and subscribe button, and consider checking out the links in the description for my other stuff on the web. Have a good one.